Why did no one else hear it? The faint shift in the sky, like fabric tearing under strain. She did, she always did. Even before the warning sirens began their hollow cry, she felt it. The way silence turns brittle before a storm, how air grows heavy before fire splits it apart. Her squad glanced upward too late. By the time they registered the sound, the horizon already cracked open with flame. She didn't move at first. Her body did what years of training had carved into muscle memory. Breathe, narrow the vision, catch every sound, every flicker of movement. Her rifle felt steadier than her own pulse, though the pulse was quick, betraying the stillness in her eyes. The blast thundered above them, shaking the valley floor, scattering rock and dirt like shrapnel. Men cursed. One shouted for cover. Another tripped on the uneven ground, his helmet clattering against stone. Their voices tangled in chaos. But her eyes stayed still, locking on the fire rippling in the sky. That was when the weight of command fell on her, not officially, not in rank, not in orders, but in silence. The others were looking at her. They didn't say her name, but they didn't need to. Soldiers have a way of knowing who holds steady when the ground gives way. Inside, she didn't feel steady. She hadn't felt steady for months. Nights were broken by the sound of screams that weren't hers, the smell of burning metal that no soap could wash from her skin. Every mission left her more fragmented, though she never showed it. She adjusted her scope more for control than necessity. "Move west," she told them quietly. The voice surprised even her, low, calm, like water smoothing jagged rock. "Keep close to the ridge, don't spread out." The fire above intensified, streaks cutting through the clouds, unnatural and violent. This wasn't random shelling. She knew that. She recognized the rhythm, the way the strikes fell in calculated waves. Someone was driving them here, herding them like prey. But she hadn't told them yet. Not the men around her, not the command center that had crackled into static minutes ago. She carried that truth alone for the moment. The knowledge was a blade, and timing decided whether it saved or destroyed. As they moved, dust rose around their boots, soft against the hard echo of artillery. One of the younger soldiers, barely more than a boy, tried to mask his breathing. She heard the sharp inhale, the ragged exhale. He was pretending not to be afraid, and in that pretense she recognized herself years ago. "Eyes forward," she said gently, not scolding, not cold. His head snapped toward her voice, and she caught the flicker of gratitude he didn't have words for. Sometimes all a soldier needs is proof that someone noticed without judgment. They reached the ridge, crouching low. The sky still raged, but here the earth shielded them for a moment. The squad huddled close, waiting. The radio hissed, then died. No instructions, no lifeline, just the hollow sound of static dissolving into silence. One of the men cursed under his breath. Another asked the question none of them wanted to voice. "Are we cut off?" She didn't answer, not yet. Instead, she pulled the map from her vest. The paper was creased, marked with red ink, smudged by sweat. Her finger traced routes, escape lines, danger zones. All of them narrowed toward one point, one way out, but it meant threading through the same fire that was hunting them. Her chest tightened. She remembered her last conversation before this mission, a voice on the phone, her sister's voice. The way she had tried to hide pride behind worry, pretending she didn't understand the risk. "Just come back this time," she'd said. Not an order, not a plea, just quiet hope. That hope was a weight in her pocket now, heavier than the ammo, heavier than the steel. She couldn't fail them, not the squad, not her sister. Her mind flicked back to years before when survival had been personal, not tactical. When she sat in a hospital corridor, waiting for news that never came, realizing her father's last breath had been spent in a war that swallowed his name whole. He had no medal, no speech, just silence. She had sworn then she would carry differently, not louder, not prouder, but steadier, even if it cost her the same way it had cost him. The fire above eased for a moment, smoke drifting like torn banners across the sky. The squad shifted, restless in the pause. One of them, The one with lines etched deep into his face, older than most, murmured something about his daughter's birthday. He should have been home, lighting candles, not hiding from fire. The words cut her more than the shrapnel ever could, because she understood, because she too had counted days by absence, by the hollow space left at family tables. She finally spoke. "We're not cut off, not yet." She folded the map with slow precision, as if neat edges could keep panic at bay. "But they're pushing us. Whoever's out there knows this terrain. They're driving us toward the canyon." The silence that followed was heavy. Each man understood what that meant. The canyon was a trap, narrow, predictable, easy to close in. "Then what?" someone asked. His voice wasn't angry, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from too many missions, too many narrow escapes. She didn't answer directly. Not yet. Her mind was already working, calculating distances, wind patterns, sightlines. She could see it, the possibility, the thread of survival hidden in the chaos. But saying it aloud too soon would break it, would make it real before it was ready. Instead, she let her eyes meet theirs, one by one, calm, steady, unflinching. "We move smart," she said. "We move silent, we don't give them what they want." No one questioned her, not because of rank, because when the sky cracked open, her eyes had held still. And sometimes stillness is the only command that matters. As they prepared to move again, she checked her rifle, sliding the bolt with practiced ease. Her hands didn't shake, but deep inside, buried where no one could see, she carried the fear like a private wound. Fear not of dying, that had long since dulled. Fear of leading them wrong. Fear of failing those who looked at her as if she had the answers. She breathed once, twice. The way her father had taught her on the range years ago. The way she had learned to steady more than just her aim. Then she rose, shoulders squared against the fire that waited. She didn't look back, not at the men, not at the sky, only forward. But there was something she hadn't told them, not yet. The fire above wasn't random. It wasn't just the enemy. It was familiar, too familiar. A signature she had seen before. And if she was right, survival wasn't the only thing at stake. The past had come hunting, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to face it. Why had the canyon gone so quiet? That was the first question that gripped her as they approached its edge. No echoes of movement, no whispers of shifting rock, no birds breaking from trees in alarm. Just a stillness so complete it pressed against the skin, like standing inside a held breath. Her boots sank into dust. The squad trailed close behind, steps muffled, weapons angled but uncertain. They followed her eyes, and her eyes were fixed on the shadows ahead. She knew this terrain, every contour, every blind curve. She had studied it once years ago, during training exercises she was never meant to remember so vividly. But the canyon felt different now. Not terrain, not shelter, a stage. "Why are we stopping?" the younger one whispered, voice barely carried by the air. She didn't answer. Instead, she crouched low, pressing her palm against the ground. Warm, too warm, not just from sun but from fire that had fallen here minutes earlier. Her jaw clenched. They were close, too close. The men shifted, uneasy. One cleared his throat as if sound alone could anchor him. Another muttered a prayer in words she didn't recognize. Their fear was tangible. She could almost feel it bleeding into the soil. And she felt something else too, recognition. The pattern of fire in the sky, the silence of the canyon, the invisible hand steering them here. It wasn't chance. It was design. And design meant intelligence, which meant someone she had once known was on the other side of this trap. Her heart beat faster, but not from fear, from memory. She thought back to a mission years earlier in another valley, another shadowed pass. She had been younger then, still learning how to read the language of war. The man who taught her had spoken softly, almost kindly, even while shaping her into something harder than stone. He taught her how silence could be louder than gunfire, how patience could cut deeper than any blade. She had trusted him, believed him, until the day he disappeared, vanished into smoke and betrayal, leaving her with nothing but questions. Now the questions were ending. because the fire above carried his signature. The trap was his. She closed her eyes just for a second, fighting the memory, fighting the sting of betrayal that never healed. He had once been mentor, maybe even something more complicated, something she never named. Now he was ghost and enemy. And she hadn't told them, not the squad, not command, not anyone. She carried this truth like a hidden wound. If she spoke it aloud, if she admitted who hunted them, the men's trust might crack. They didn't need her past. They needed her present. They needed the stillness of her eyes. A stone shifted, the squad froze. She raised a hand, silent command. No words, just presence. They obeyed instantly. Her gaze traced the canyon walls, jagged and high. Too many blind spots. Too many places to funnel them in. Close the jaws, end it quickly. She exhaled slow. "We don't go in," she said finally. One of the men blinked, confused. "But it's cover." "It's a grave," she cut in, firm but quiet. No one argued. They felt it too. She led them along the ridge instead, hugging shadow where stone broke against the horizon. It was harder, slower, more exposed to the sky. But at least here they could move with sightlines open. Every step was measured, every breath controlled. The older soldier, the one who had spoken of his daughter, moved beside her. He carried himself with the heaviness of someone who had seen too many deployments, too many young faces not return. "You've done this before," he murmured, not as a question but as fact. She didn't look at him. "Enough times." "Then tell me," he pressed softly, "why your eyes look like they've already lost something." Her chest tightened. She wanted to dismiss it, brush it off as fatigue, but his words struck too close because he wasn't wrong. She had lost something: trust, belief, the certainty that missions had meaning. The man hunting them had taken that when he walked away and left her to carry silence. She didn't answer him. Couldn't. Instead, she kept moving, the conversation dissolving into footsteps on stone. Hours stretched. The sky dimmed, smoke staining the horizon with streaks of ash. Hunger gnawed, but none of them spoke of it. Thirst pressed, but canteens stayed capped. Survival wasn't just in bullets, it was in patience. At dusk, they found a hollow between rocks, hidden from open sight. They crouched low, rifles resting, breaths shallow. The canyon still yawned nearby, silent and waiting. Night brought its own weight. Darkness thickened, the kind that swallowed shapes whole. The men shifted in restless sleep, but she stayed awake, rifle across her lap. Every sound mattered, the scrape of gravel, the sigh of wind. And in the quiet, her mind turned inward. Her sister's voice again. That last phone call, the plea to return alive. The promise she had not spoken but carried like a vow. And beneath that, another voice, his voice, low, patient, guiding her through shots that stretched beyond distance, teaching her how to breathe through fear. "Stillness is strength," he had said once. "If your eyes hold, the world bends around them." She hated how his memory still steadied her, hated how much of her strength had been born from his lessons. Because now, that same strength was what he hunted. A sound broke the night, faint, metallic. She stiffened instantly, rifle raised, eyes narrowing into dark. Not animal, not wind, deliberate. She signaled the squad with a flick of fingers. No panic, no noise, just readiness. Shadows shifted at the canyon's edge, figures moving. Not many, scouts testing the perimeter. She held her breath, scope trained, finger resting near the trigger but not pulling. Patience. Silence. The men looked at her, waiting, trusting. And in that moment she knew the enemy wasn't guessing. They weren't searching. They knew exactly who they hunted. Because ghosts don't leave the living alone. Her chest ached. She could almost feel him in the dark, watching her, measuring her choices, testing if she was still the soldier he had shaped. She lowered the rifle, didn't fire, not yet. Shooting would give away position. Better to let the scouts pass, better to hold silence as weapon. But inside, something cracked. A memory long buried rose sharp, her last training session with him, his words before he left. "One day you'll stand where I stand, and you'll have to choose whether survival is enough. She hadn't understood then, she understood now. Because survival wasn't the only thing at stake, this was personal, this was unfinished. She pressed her back against stone, eyes steady even as her pulse thundered. The fire in the sky had been his signal, the silence of the canyon was his stage. And the next move was hers. Why was the boy smiling in the dark? That's what struck her first when she noticed him. Not the rifle balanced too tightly against his chest, not the tremor in his shoulders from hours of stillness. It was the faint curl at his mouth, a fragile, unguarded thing that didn't belong here, in dust and shadow. She leaned closer. His eyes were shut, not sleep. No one slept that easy on nights like this. He was dreaming, dreaming of something kinder than war. For a second, envy struck her. What would it feel like to carry a dream so vivid that even the crackle of fire on the horizon couldn't smother it? Her dreams had long turned to ash, burned faces, broken oaths, a sky that always cracked with fire. The older soldier stirred nearby, restless. His hand brushed against the dirt as if seeking something to hold. He muttered his daughter's name, then quieted. Even in sleep, the weight of family pressed. She listened, her chest tight. She wondered if her sister ever spoke her name in the night, if hope carried that far across silence. A stone shifted at the canyon's edge. Her body tensed instantly. The scouts again, patient, watching, waiting. She raised a hand. The men woke soundlessly as if her movements had become their clock. Eyes blinked, rifles steadied, breathing slowed. The boy wiped the smile from his face, confusion chasing the last trace of his dream. They waited, silence, just silence. But silence wasn't nothing. Silence was intent. Silence was design. She knew it, felt it. The trap hadn't closed yet because he wanted her to feel it tighten first. He wanted her to sense his hand around them, invisible, inevitable. Her throat went dry. She hated how well she knew his patterns. How much of her still moved to rhythms he had drilled years ago. Every step she took, every breath she held, shaped by a ghost she couldn't escape. And the men around her didn't know. To them he was just the enemy. To her he was betrayal carved into bone. She steadied her breathing, letting the memory come. She saw him again standing on a range under a blinding sun, his voice low, guiding, "Patience, let the world move first, then you move last." She had trusted him then, not because of his rank, not even because of his skill, because he looked at her like she wasn't invisible, like she was worth teaching, worth sharpening. And then he left. No warning, no explanation. One day he was mentor, the next, a ghost swallowed by fire. She had tried to bury the questions, but now, here in this canyon, the answers were hunting her. Her chest tightened. The boy beside her whispered, "Do we shoot?" She shook her head. His grip tightened on the rifle. She leaned close enough that her voice was almost a breath. "Not yet." They waited. The night stretched thin. The silence pressed heavier. And then it came, a voice. Not loud, not close, but carried by wind echoing off stone, a voice she knew. "Stillness is strength." Her blood froze. The words weren't aimed at her squad. They were aimed at her. The boy's eyes darted to hers, searching for command. The older soldier frowned, his jaw tightening as if recognizing something was wrong but not knowing what. She kept her face still. She had to. If her eyes broke now, so would they. Inside she was burning. That voice, that man, the ghost in the dark had stepped closer. He wasn't just watching, he was speaking, and he was speaking to her. Memory slammed harder, his hand steadying hers on the rifle, his shadow beside her on endless night watches, his silence after she had asked him once, only once, why he fought. He had never answered. Now, years later, his answer was fire and traps and pursuit. Her breath came slow, controlled. She had to keep them moving, had to keep them alive. "Pack up," she whispered. Her voice didn't shake. "We move." They obeyed instantly, though confusion lingered in their eyes. None asked why. None asked about the voice. Maybe they thought it was just the canyon playing tricks. She let them believe that. Better than the truth. They slipped through the rocks, steps careful, bodies low. The night air tasted of smoke, acrid and sharp. Each movement carried weight. Every sound felt too loud. The boy stumbled once, his boot catching on stone. She grabbed his arm before he fell, steadying him. His eyes met hers, wide with fear. "Why are they after us?" he whispered. She almost told him, almost spilled the truth in one sharp rush. But she couldn't. His fear was heavy enough. He didn't need hers too. Instead, she said, "Because they're afraid of us." It wasn't the whole truth, but it steadied him. Sometimes words aren't about facts, they're about survival. By dawn, the squad was ragged, eyes bloodshot, bodies worn. They found another hollow, this one tighter, pressed between jagged stone like ribs around a heart. They crouched low, catching shallow rest. She stayed awake again, always awake, watching, listening. The older soldier shifted beside her, his voice a murmur in the pale light. "You know him." Her body stilled. He didn't look at her, just stared at the horizon where the smoke bled into sunrise. "The way you moved when he spoke, the way your eyes froze, you know him." She swallowed hard, words stuck in her throat. "You don't have to tell me," he added quietly, "but don't carry it alone." For a moment she wanted to. She wanted to pour out everything, how she had trusted, how she had been betrayed, how this was more than survival, it was unfinished war. But she stayed silent, because once spoken, the truth couldn't be pulled back, and silence, she knew, was sometimes the only shield. She looked at him finally, her eyes steady though inside a storm tore. "There are things," she said softly, "that are better carried in silence." He didn't argue, just nodded once, as if understanding more than he admitted. The squad dozed in shifts, the canyon waited. And she waited too, rifle across her knees, heart heavy with truths unsaid. Because she knew. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was a reckoning. And the man who had once taught her patience was about to learn how much she had learned without him. Why did the wind stop moving? One moment it carried dust along the stone, brushing against their faces like an invisible tide. The next it died. No rustle, no whisper, just stillness so sharp it hollowed the air. She knew that silence. The world only held its breath before something broke. Her grip on the rifle tightened. The men stirred, some instinct pulling them awake, even before she signaled. The boy blinked rapidly, trying to shake the blur of sleep. The older soldier already had his hand on his weapon, his body moving from exhaustion to readiness without hesitation. "Eyes up," she whispered. The canyon stared back at them, empty, too empty. Her pulse slowed by force, trained discipline beating against the instinct to run. She scanned the walls, the shadows, the lines where stone met sky. She felt it, not saw, not heard, but felt the shape of danger. It was near, watching, waiting. Her breath caught, not fear, recognition. Because the silence wasn't theirs, it was his. He had taught her once, true hunters don't break silence, they own it. Now he was proving it. The boy swallowed hard, voice cracking. "Where are they?" "Everywhere," she murmured, eyes steady. The squad stiffened at the word. She let it sit. Better truth than false comfort. A flash, not light. A glint, metal catching sun far up the canyon wall. Her scope snapped to it. The world narrowed. A barrel, a sniper, perfect vantage, her muscles coiled. Finger near the trigger, but she didn't fire. Too easy, too visible, a lure. Her breath slowed. She scanned wider, higher. There another glint. Then another, not one sniper, not two, a nest, a circle. They weren't meant to be killed fast. They were meant to be caged. Her stomach nodded. She had been right. The canyon wasn't cover, it was theater, and she was the audience meant to break. The men waited, eyes darting between her and the stone above. She forced herself to move slow, deliberate, folding the map open across her knee. One path left, through the narrow vein that cut north, dangerous, exposed, but alive. She hesitated, because he would know that too. He would expect her to choose it. He always knew her choices before she made them. Unless she stopped thinking like the soldier he had shaped. Unless she became something he hadn't taught. Her chest tightened. Could she? Or was she forever his student, moving to his shadow even now? The older soldier's voice broke through, low and steady. "We trust you." She looked at him. His face was lined, weary, but his eyes held no question, only certainty. And that certainty steadied her. "We move," she said. They didn't ask where, didn't ask how. They rose as one, silent, shadows against stone. The first shot cracked the air, a warning, not a kill. The bullet kissed the dust at her boot. She didn't flinch. Her jaw locked. He was speaking through the shot, telling her, "I see you." The boy stumbled, panic rising. She grabbed his shoulder, pulling him close, her voice sharp but calm. "Breathe with me." He obeyed, his breaths matched hers, steadying, his fear eased. Another shot, closer, still not a kill, a message, "I'm here, I'm waiting." Her chest burned, rage and grief tangled tight. This wasn't war. This was personal. A man who had once stood beside her was now playing God from the shadows. She lifted her eyes to the canyon wall, to the unseen figure she knew was there. Her gaze didn't waver. If he wanted silence, she would give him silence. If he wanted her to break, she would stand still. She led them into the narrow vein, every step a choice, every breath deliberate. Shots echoed, closer, sharper, but none aimed to kill, just to remind, just to haunt. The men moved tighter, the canyon walls pressing close, stone scraping shoulders. The boy whispered, "Why aren't they hitting us?" Her voice was soft, almost a growl. "Because this isn't about you." The words hung heavy. The men didn't ask more, but she felt their eyes on her back, questions burning they would never voice. The older soldier walked at her side, his silence different, understanding, patient. He didn't need the whole truth. He only needed her eyes to stay steady. The path twisted, climbing toward light. Sweat-streaked faces, muscles strained, lungs burned. Still they moved, because she moved. And then near the ridge, the shot stopped. The silence returned. She froze, the squad froze with her. Then his voice. Not carried by wind this time. Closer, human, real. "You finally learned to keep moving." Her blood turned cold. The boy looked at her, eyes wide. The older soldier stiffened, hand gripping his weapon tighter. She didn't answer, couldn't, her throat locked. The voice echoed again, smooth, calm, cutting. "I told you once, stillness is strength, and look at you now, strong, leading, just as I knew you would." Her chest ached, memory pressed hard, his voice hadn't changed, not even a note. She forced her breath slow, steady, eyes forward. "Keep moving," she whispered to the men. They obeyed, confusion tightening their steps. Inside, her war raged. This wasn't survival anymore. This was a reckoning. And when the time came, she would have to choose. Not just between life and death, but between past and present. Between the ghost who had shaped her and the soldier she had become without him. Why did the boy start humming when death was near? The sound slipped out of him, soft, almost apologetic, as if he hadn't meant to let it escape. A tune without words, something childish, broken in places where memory failed to hold the melody. The squad glanced at him, startled, but he didn't stop. His lips trembled, his eyes darted nervously, yet the hum carried on, thin, fragile, stubborn. She watched him, not with anger, with recognition, because she had done the same once years ago in a different valley when silence had grown so heavy she thought it would bury her alive. A tune her father used to whistle had spilled out of her then, cracking the suffocating dark. Sometimes noise isn't defiance, it's survival. The canyon pressed closer around them, walls climbing high, shadows folding in. The shots had stopped. The silence had deepened. That silence was worse than gunfire. At least bullets were honest. Silence was a lie with teeth. She knew he was near. Every step, every breath, every nerve in her body told her he was close, watching, measuring, waiting for her to falter. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She fought to slow it, to steady. Stillness is strength. His words again, always his words. But she wasn't his student anymore. Not now, not here. The boy's hum quivered into silence. The older soldier placed a hand on his shoulder, squeezing once, grounding him. Human touch in a place designed to strip it away. The boy nodded, swallowing his fear, rifle gripped tighter. She felt it then. The air changed, heavy, pressed down like unseen hands, and then his voice. Closer than before, too close. You lead them well. The squad stiffened. Their eyes darted to her. They waited because the voice wasn't for them, it was for her. Her throat tightened. She wanted to answer, to hurl every word she had swallowed all these years, to demand why he had left, why he had turned his lessons into weapons aimed at her. But her silence held, because words in the wrong moment could shatter everything. The older soldier whispered near her ear, "Who is he?" She didn't answer, couldn't. Her eyes stayed forward, her breath steady. The canyon opened slightly, revealing a ledge bathed in pale light, and there he was. For the first time she saw him. He stood above them, framed by sky, rifle slung easy against his shoulder. His stance was casual, almost relaxed, but his presence filled the space like thunder. He looked older, lines carved deeper into his face, but his eyes were the same. Cold, sharp, knowing. Her chest clenched, memory crashed hard, nights on the range, his shadow teaching hers, his silence that had once felt like safety, now it felt like a blade. The boy raised his rifle, hands trembling. She caught his arm before he could fire. "No," she whispered. Confusion flared in his eyes, but he obeyed. The man above smiled faintly, as if amused, as if he had expected that. "You still know when to hold fire," he called down. Her jaw tightened. Her silence was her shield. The squad looked between them, bewildered. They understood nothing of what tied these two shadows together, but they felt it. The air between them was thick, charged, dangerous. The older soldier spoke, his voice hard. "What do you want?" The man's eyes never left hers. "I already have what I want." Her stomach twisted. He wanted her, not dead, not yet. He wanted her to stand here, to face him, to feel the weight of everything he had built inside her. The men shifted, restless. Fear rippled through them. They didn't know what game they were in, only that survival now hung on her silence, her choices. She breathed slow. Her father's memory steadied her. His words before he had left for his final tour, "Don't let the world decide who you are. Decide for yourself." That's what this was, a choice. Not survival, identity. She raised her voice finally, low but strong. "You taught me silence, you taught me patience, but you never taught me how to walk away. That's what I learned without you." The man's smile faded. For the first time his eyes flickered, something sharp, almost wounded, hidden quickly. "You think you walked away?" His voice hardened. "You're still here, in my silence, in my fire. Every choice you've made is mine." The words struck deep, because part of her feared they were true. Every still breath, every steady aim shaped by him. But another part knew different. She had carried his lessons, yes, but she had also carried her father's memory, her sister's hope, the faces of every soldier who had looked to her when chaos fell. She wasn't just his shadow, she was more. She lifted her chin, eyes unflinching. "No, every choice I've made is mine." The canyon held still. The men waited. The air trembled between them. And then his laugh, low, sharp, bitter, "We'll see." He stepped back from the ledge, vanishing into shadow, gone. The silence that followed was crushing. The boy whispered, "What was that?" Her hand trembled for the first time. She tightened her grip on the rifle to hide it. "Keep moving," she said, her voice steady though her chest burned. The men obeyed. They didn't understand, not yet. But she knew. This wasn't over. It had only just begun. Why did the canyon suddenly feel smaller, like walls pressing in, like the very earth wanted to trap them. The men shifted uneasily. Boots scraped stone. Breaths quickened. No one spoke, but every eye flicked toward her. They didn't need to say what weighed heavy in their silence. Who was he? Why did he speak to her like that? Why did she not answer the way a soldier should? She felt their questions, sharp as knives against her back, but she gave them nothing. Not yet. If she opened that door, they might never follow her again. And they had to. Survival depended on trust, even if it was fractured, fragile, half-believed. The boy trailed closer to her side. His eyes were wide but not accusing, just scared. "Ma'am," his voice trembled. Does he know us?" Her throat closed. She wanted to lie. She wanted to tell him no, that this was just a game of intimidation, nothing more. But she had promised herself long ago, lies rot faster than fear. Her reply was soft, steady. "He knows me, that's enough." The boy swallowed hard, then nodded. He didn't understand, not fully, but he trusted her voice more than her silence, and that trust was the only bridge she had left. They moved on. The canyon floor narrowed, stones crunching underfoot, echo bouncing back strange and uneven. The air was colder here, thinner, as if it had been stolen. Every sense stretched raw. The first trap was almost beautiful. A wire thin as hair drawn between two stones where shadow touched shadow. The kind of thing most eyes would skip over in panic. But her eyes didn't. She stopped, arm out, halting the line. She crouched, fingers brushing near but not touching. The boy leaned close, squinting. Then he saw it. His breath hitched. "Explosives," she whispered. The older soldier cursed under his breath. His face was pale. She scanned left, right. Every rock was a threat. Every shadow could hide teeth. Her chest tightened. Because this was exactly his style. Not traps to kill outright, but traps to slow, to corral, to herd prey where he wanted them. "This isn't about stopping us," she said low. "It's about steering us." The men looked at her, unease deepening. Steering them where? She didn't answer, because the answer hurt too much. The wire hummed slightly in the faint canyon wind. She could almost see his hands placing it, calm, precise, the same way he had once placed her fingers on a trigger, teaching, guiding, building. Her hands trembled once before she forced them steady. She cut the wire with practiced care. The click of released tension was soft but final. They stepped over, breaths held. More traps followed, a rock stacked just wrong, a thread hidden in dust, a hollow where earth shouldn't sink. Every one a whisper of him, a reminder that he was close, always watching. The men began to crack, small things at first, a muttered curse too sharp, a hand shaking as it loaded a magazine, eyes flicking to her with suspicion and fear tangled together. Finally, the older soldier stopped dead, voice harsh. "Enough, we can't keep walking blind into his game." The squad froze, tension snapping tight. His eyes burned into hers. "He knows you, you know him. What the hell are we walking into?" Her chest locked. The canyon felt even smaller now. She wanted to scream it at them, that this man had once been her commander, her shadow, her ghost, that every step they took was a step deeper into her past, into lessons twisted into weapons. That survival wasn't just a mission, it was personal. But the words lodged in her throat. To speak them was to admit the hold he still had on her. Silence stretched. The boy's gaze darted between them, frightened. She forced her voice calm. "You're walking into survival, that's all." The older soldier's jaw clenched, but he didn't push further. Not now. He turned away, muttering, but his silence was heavier than any argument. The squad moved again, slower, more fractured. Trust was cracking. She could feel it. And cracks in trust kill quicker than bullets. Dusk began to bleed into the canyon, shadows stretching long. The rocks glowed with fading firelight, then dulled to gray. Night crept in. That was when the voices started. Not his voice, other voices, whispered, broken, carried on the wind, a woman crying, a man shouting faintly. then silence again. The boy froze, eyes wide. "Did you hear?" "Keep moving," she cut in fast, but her stomach turned. Because she had heard it too, and she knew what it was. Recordings, loops, tricks he had taught in another war, another place, to unnerve, to disorient, to turn soldiers against their own senses until they fired at ghosts. The boy's breath grew ragged. The older soldier cursed under his breath again, harsher this time. "Why is he doing this?" one of the men whispered, voice breaking. Her answer was quiet, almost to herself. "Because he can." The canyon twisted left, then right. Every turn could be an ambush. Every silence could shatter. And then it did. A single shot cracked. The sound rolled off the walls, impossible to place. The men dropped, hugging stone. Dust filled their mouths. Hearts thundered. No one was hit, but that wasn't the point. The point was fear. Her breath came sharp, quick. She pressed her back against cold rock, closing her eyes for a heartbeat. She remembered another night, another canyon, his voice whispering in her ear, "The first shot isn't to kill, it's to own them, make them live in your silence. That's power." Her eyes opened. "No, not anymore." She spoke low, steady. "He wants us to scatter, we stay tight, we move slow, we do not give him what he wants." The boy nodded quickly, clinging to her voice like a rope in a storm. The older soldier hesitated, but finally gave a curt nod. They moved again, tighter now, breath to breath. The canyon darkened fully. Stars peeked between jagged stone. And then something new. A flare hissed, lighting the sky blood red. The canyon glowed hellish, shadows dancing sharp and violent. And there, silhouetted at the far end of the path, he stood again. Calm, waiting. This time he wasn't smiling. She felt the men freeze around her. Their fear was thick, almost choking. Her chest tightened, breath caught. Because she knew. The traps, the whispers, the single shot, everything had led here, to this place, to this moment. And now she would have to face what she had been running from since the day she first walked away. Why did his silhouette look so calm, like a man waiting for dinner, instead of standing at the mouth of a canyon painted with fear? The flare hissed overhead, burning red, shadows stretching sharp across the jagged walls. The squad froze, rifles raised, breaths uneven. But no one fired. Not yet. His stillness unnerved them more than bullets. She stepped forward first, one boot scraping stone, her rifle low. Every nerve screamed to lift it, to take the shot, to end this. But something in her chest, pride, fear, unfinished memory, held her back. His voice cut the night, steady, unhurried. "You always walked into fire without thinking. Some things don't change." The words lodged in her gut. Not an insult, not quite praise either. A memory disguised as judgment. The older soldier muttered, low but sharp, "Who the hell is he to you?" Her silence answered louder than any words. The boy's voice trembled. He sounds like." He didn't finish. He couldn't. The man above tilted his head, eyes locked on her. "You never told them, did you, that you were mine first, before them, before all this?" A ripple went through the squad, confusion, suspicion, fear tangled tight. The older soldier's eyes snapped to her. "What is he talking about?" Her chest constricted, breath shallow. She wanted to explain, to peel open the years, to tell them about the missions no one had spoken of, the shadows she had once served in. But words would make it real. Words would chain her to him again. So she stayed silent. His smile returned, thin, cruel. "See, she won't tell you, because if she does, you'll see the truth. She was trained to be me, and that means she'll betray you too." The men shifted uneasily. The canyon felt tighter. Every silence now was a threat, every glance a fracture. The older soldier's voice cracked with anger. "Is he lying?" Her hands tightened on her rifle. She forced her voice steady. "He trained me, a long time ago, before I knew what kind of man he was." A sharp intake of breath ran through the squad. The boy's eyes widened, his fear raw, unguarded. The older soldier spat the words like fire. So we're trapped here because of your past. She swallowed hard. His anger wasn't wrong. Her silence had dragged them into this. The man above spoke again, his voice carrying like smoke. You think she leads you? No, I do. Every step you've taken, every trap you've dodged, it's me guiding you, through her. The boy shook his head fast, whispering, That's not true, she saved us. But doubt had crept in. She saw it in their eyes. Her pulse thundered. She thought of her father again. Of the night he had left, telling her not to let the world decide who she was. That choice was hers, always. She stepped further into the open, lifting her voice. You don't own me, not anymore. The man's expression hardened. His smile vanished. If you believe that, prove it. And then gunfire. Sharp, sudden, aimed not at her but at the canyon walls. Rock splintered, dust erupted, echoes deafened. The squad dropped, scrambling, firing blindly into shadows. But when the dust cleared, he was gone. The silence that followed was worse than the shots. The older soldier rounded on her, rage barely leashed. We can't keep following you if you don't tell us the truth. Who is he? What does he want? Her chest ached. The boy stared at her, eyes pleading. The others waited, their trust dangling by a thread. She lowered her rifle slow. Her voice cracked, softer now. He was my commander, my shadow. He taught me everything I know about silence, about survival, but I walked away. I couldn't follow him anymore. The older soldier's jaw tightened. Why? Her eyes burned. Memories flooded, faces lost, choices forced, nights of silence that had broken something inside her. She forced the words out. Because he stopped seeing people. He only saw pawns, and I refused to be one. The men listened. Their breath slowed. The boy's shoulders eased a little, trust flickering back. But the older soldier wasn't satisfied. His voice was sharp, cold. And now he's using us to get to you. We're not pawns, are we? Her chest clenched. The truth pressed hard against her ribs. She whispered, not if I stop him first. The canyon grew colder. The flare sputtered out. Darkness swallowed them again. Above, somewhere unseen, his voice drifted once more. Quiet, almost tender. You can't stop me. You are me. Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, she felt 12 years old again, standing in the dirt, rifle heavy, his shadow falling across her. But then she looked at the boy, at the older soldier, at the men whose lives balanced now on her silence, her choices. No, she whispered to herself, I'm not you. The wind carried her words away, but inside they stayed. For the first time in years, they stayed. Why did the night suddenly feel endless, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath? The canyon had fallen into silence after his last words, not the kind of silence that rested, it pressed. Heavy, suffocating, like a hand gripping the throat. The men clung to the rocks, waiting, listening, but no sound came. No footsteps, no gunfire, just the weight of a ghost who refused to leave. Her chest rose and fell slow, deliberate, every breath measured. Inside, though, her heart thundered. His voice echoed still, you are me. No, she couldn't let that stand. She lifted her eyes to the jagged rim above, to the shadows where he hid. She whispered to herself, this ends tonight. The older soldier caught it sharp. And what if it does? She met his eyes. In them, she saw the anger still, the suspicion. But beneath that, the fear of men who had followed her through fire and now doubted whether she was leading them to life or death. Her voice steadied, low but firm. Then I end it with me, not with you. The boy's breath hitched. His small hands tightened on the rifle, but his eyes shone with something more than fear. Hope. Fragile, yes, but alive. That was enough. She rose to her feet. No crouch, no cover. She stepped into the open canyon floor, the stars cold above, the stone walls towering like judgment. Her voice carried upward, steady and clear. No more shadows, no more whispers. If you want me, take me, but leave them out. For a moment, nothing, only silence. Then a laugh, low, sharp, cutting. His silhouette appeared again on the rim, dark against the thin scatter of starlight. "You think you can bargain with me after everything I gave you?" His voice sharpened. "Every breath you take is mine." The men behind her tensed, rifles half raised, waiting for a signal. Her hands trembled once before she stilled them. Her rifle hung loose at her side. She wouldn't meet him as his reflection, weapon against weapon. She would meet him as herself. Her voice carried, softer now but unflinching. "You gave me silence, you gave me patience, but you never gave me mercy, and mercy is stronger." He flinched just slightly, but she saw it. Anger flared in his words. "Mercy makes you weak." She shook her head. "No, it makes me human, that's what you lost." The canyon seemed to hold its breath. Then movement. He raised his rifle. The men gasped, aiming theirs in return. The boy whispered, desperate, "Don't, please don't." Her heart hammered. She didn't lift her weapon. She let it hang, her eyes locked on his. For the first time she spoke his name, a name she hadn't let cross her lips in years. Quiet, barely more than breath, but enough to strip him of his shadow, to remind him he was not a ghost, not a myth, just a man. His rifle wavered. For a fraction of a second it dipped. And in that second, the older soldier fired. The shot cracked through the canyon, echo sharp, final. His body staggered, fell from the rim, crashing down hard into dust and stone. Silence returned, this time not his silence, theirs. The squad stared, chests heaving. The boy's eyes were wide, tears brimming but unshed. She walked to where he had fallen. Dust still clung to his form, blood dark against rock. His eyes, those cold, sharp eyes, flickered once, finding hers. His lips moved. She leaned close. His voice was faint, broken. "You were mine." Her chest tightened. She whispered back, steady, final, "I was never yours." His eyes dulled. His breath left. Silence claimed him for the last time. The canyon was still. The stars burned above. And for the first time she felt the silence differently, not as a weapon, not as a chain, as space, as freedom. The men gathered slowly, unsure, fragile. The older soldier's face was hard, but his voice carried respect. "You finished it." Her eyes lifted, steady. "No, I ended it." The boy stood closest, his voice small. "Are we safe now?" She looked at him, at the fear and hope mingled in his gaze. She rested a hand on his shoulder, firm. "Safe enough to walk forward." They moved together out of the canyon, steps slow, deliberate, but lighter than before. Each man silent, each thought their own. At the rim of dawn, when the sky cracked pale with the first fire of morning, she paused, looked back once. The canyon stretched dark behind her, his shadow buried there now, his silence broken. Her eyes burned, but her voice stayed quiet. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. She turned, walking into the light, the squad following. And the silence that walked with her now was her own.